You are your own parent now. That is the name of today's video, but you already know that, so let's start. Hello everybody, my name is Madara and I'm filming here in Prague, the Czech Republic. I am working in a Montessori classroom with children ages 6 to 12, and at the same time I'm studying a year-long training with Dr. Gabor Mate and Sadaram Kaur called the Compassionate Inquiry. I have my notes here. Yesterday evening I was so inspired and I typed up, it's almost like an essay, so I might be looking a bit too much in my notes because I find that the wording is so good, it was like I couldn't stop writing yesterday evening. So anyways, to the topic, back to the topic. In one of my videos here on this channel, I shared and I said that the name Therapy Meets Montessori comes from the fact that I am in both worlds. I'm in the Montessori world and I'm in the therapy world at the moment as well. And it's true, but there is another why this channel is called Therapy Meets Montessori. Because in 99% of cases, in my experience, in the therapy work, the person is brought back to their childhood, and that is where the real issue is. And Maria Montessori spoke extensively what children of different ages need. So often I see this correlation, between the two worlds, between the Montessori world and the therapy world, and I can find answers to these issues, to my issues, to people's issues, not only in the therapy world, but also in the Montessori world, because she was a woman who explored extensively children's needs in different ages. So that's another reason why the two worlds are brought together on this channel. Now, back to the topic. In the childhood, again, in my experience, in 99% of cases, the core issue was that there was no primary caregiver like mom or dad or grandma, grandpa that would listen to the child's situation, to the issue, support the child, help them to understand how the world works. And often these caregivers, primary caregivers, were the ones causing the pain to the child. So this child had nobody to talk to. So that was the core issue. And I will always say this, that we are not here to blame anybody. There's always a reason why parents behaved the way they did at that time, when we were children. And each one of us, we always do the best that we can with what we have at that moment. So I'm not discussing these things here to blame anybody, because it doesn't help, awareness helps. Now, and on the top of that, why to blame parents now? Now we are our own parents, and it's time to take the responsibility back. Responsibility about ourselves. Now, the Compassionate Inquiry course, in order to finish this year-long training, which I would describe as a level 1 out of 3 levels to become a certified Compassionate Inquiry practitioner, in order to finish this level 1, it requires, one of the requirements is 50 practice sessions with your course mates. They are 60 to 90 minutes long. And basically we are practicing every single week to have 50 practice sessions during this year. And we are about to finish the course. We are graduating in September. Now it is the end of July and we are graduating in September. And therefore, we've become pretty skilled, with all the practice, with the practicing together and practicing outside of the course. So the sessions now are amazing, they're so helpful and so deep. So, and to support what I said in the beginning of the video, that in my observation, in my experience, 99% of issues or hardships in adult life originated in childhood. I want to share a specific example that I what's the word? I forgot the word. What's the word? Explored. That I explored in a session 2 days ago with my colleague, with my compassionate inquiry colleague. So let me check if I'm following my essay. So yes. Okay, so what was the issue that I went to my colleague with? So the issue was that every single time I would see a person I know or don't know somewhere on social media, that person has bought a dog or a cat. Well, it's mostly about dogs, really. So let's stick to the truth. So when I would see that someone has bought a dog, I would feel an extreme judgment toward that person. And cognitively, I understand it's not fair for me to judge them. It's their life. They can buy a dog. But my strong belief is that, people should take animals from shelters because shelters are full of adult dogs as well as puppies. However, that's my belief and that's what I'm living by. It doesn't mean that other people need to live by the same belief. Okay, so cognitively, I understand, and it's not fair that I'm judging them. However, when a situation comes, when I do see something on social media, this judgment just overtakes me. I cannot control it. It's just a reaction. So I went to my compassionate inquiry colleague and I told her this story, and I said, look, let's work with it, please. It's very hard to live with this judgment. It's very heavy. I want to find where is the core issue to these emotions and feelings, and hopefully awareness will bring a solution, an end to this pattern that keeps going and keeps repeating itself. So what happened in my session with my colleague? What happened, after sharing that? So, of course, she led me through the session step by step because the method has its steps, how to go through the session. And at some point, of course, we go back in the childhood. We go back to a childhood memory. And this memory is from a flat that we used to live in with my mom. I was 6 years old. Back then, I see myself around 6 years old. In this memory, I see myself around 6 years old. And this flat was on a ground floor in a building that was a wooden building. And from the outside, the facade of the building had started rotting. And the windows had bars. And the toilet was outside on the other side of the building, around two corners. I had to go around two corners in order to access the toilet. And my adult grateful self thinks that it was still an amazing place to live in, knowing what's happening in the world these days and what people are facing. But my younger self back then, it didn't feel good to her. And it's valid, because she didn't know the world back then and she didn't have a comparison back then. And my mom, and God bless her, or universe bless her, I'm so grateful to her. She was working every day, all day, just to put food in my mouth, and I'm so grateful for everything she's done to me, and that I can sit here today because of her, because she supported me and she wanted a different life for me. At the same time, she was never home, and I grew up basically alone. So even though now I still believe that was the best way growing up in terms of safety, because it was a small village. Everybody knew everybody. We had some drunks in the village, but they were always so kind, and they would never bother you or ask you anything. They would just live their own life, and there was no real danger, But to that child, it didn't feel safe anyway, She felt unsafe. She felt that there's danger. The danger can come anytime from all around, because she was living on a ground floor next to a road, cars passing, people walking. You could hear people speaking, even through the windows. It was not soundproof, so she would hear it and hear steps, and if somebody would laugh or scream, she would hear that all. And so I can imagine for her, for the 6-year-old version of me, it must have been so stressful to live like that. So, and I saw how being in such an environment led her to develop beliefs that this is it, this is how life is, I have no power to change anything, and I'm hopeless, I'm hopeless, I am helpless, I don't have power to change anything. And so you can imagine, right? Legit beliefs back in those times. However, the problem is the fact that those beliefs do not stay with you just for a period of time. They stay with you for the rest of your life if you do not become aware of them. So, and then in the session 2 days ago, I became aware of them and they lost power over me. But up to 2 days ago, they were managing my life, they were leading my life together with other beliefs, but now I'm focusing on these ones. And so I'm so grateful that I caught them, that I became aware of them, because back then, they were kind of serving me in a way, so that I would, if I assume that that's how it is, I was not desperate, because I just assumed, okay, that's how it is, this is my life. And I wasn't desperate. I assumed it and I adapted to that situation. Whereas if I would have this hope of, something's going to change every day, any day now, I think it would make me go crazy. So actually all those adaptations that we develop during our childhood, they did good to us back then. They helped us to survive. But now they're an obstacle in adult life. They become obstacles in our way, in living a healthy life. So back to the session. So in this session, as I see this memory, it's like I'm back in time, and the adult version of me, like today I speak to my 6-year-old version, and I explain to her, I tell her, this is actually, now I know that this is actually a season in your life. So it's hard season in your life, and I know you don't like it, but it's just how it is for now. And yes, you can't change this particular aspect of your life, it's not in your hands, but it doesn't mean you cannot change anything else. You do have a power to change things. You actually do have a voice. So just redirect it to other aspects of your life, So I spoke to her like this, and and empowered her again, that she can make a change. So, okay, that's clear. Very nice. Talking to yourself. But what about this judgment to people that buy dogs, and so I connected it in the session that in my child's mind there was supposed to be an adult that would come, that would save me, that would make things right, that would change the situation. There had to be someone that would do it for me, but nobody ever came. Nobody saved me, right, for that period of time. And I follow all these dog shelters out there in the world, and the problem is global. And I see I saw myself, in those unprotected animals, in those animals that are suffering. I saw myself, I saw myself, my childhood version of me who was suffering and waiting for someone to come and save her, but nobody ever came. And now, as I grew older, I still kept waiting because I was not aware of, the issue and the whole thing. And I still, so unconsciously, I still kept waiting that somebody will come. And nowadays, when I look around and I see something from my point of view unfair happening in the world, I feel like that child who doesn't have a voice, who cannot change anything, who's helpless and hopeless, and I expect somebody else to fix the situation, to fix the world. So when I see an adult buying a dog, I think, what are you doing? There is so much suffering out there. There are so many dogs and puppies in the shelters. Go and get one. You have to do something about it. So, and that's where the judgment came from. And yeah, isn't this fascinating? Like the whole circle. So, and I want to share, as a side note, I actually want to share another interesting aspect of what I experienced and discovered in the last session, as well as in a session a couple of weeks ago. So it happened twice already. I was a client and my colleague was a therapist in a role of a therapist. And when we go back to this childhood memory, we also try to give this child version of ourselves what they need in that moment, and for most of the people, actually, what they needed back then was a hug, someone to hold them, someone to tell them it's all gonna be okay. And it happened to me 2 times now that my colleague, she would ask me, Mandara, okay, what else does she need, And I would tell her, she's fine now, I spoke to her, she's fine. And the colleague would say, really? Maybe she needs a hug? And I would say, well, I can, yeah, it's okay. But actually, it's not what she needs. That it's interesting. So the conclusion is that my inner child, the young version of me, starting ages 6 to 12, that period of my life, I didn't lack a physical affection from my mom. Actually, she would hug me. She would always stroke my hair before sleep, so I would fall asleep, and that aspect of my life was satisfied, but the intellectual hunger was not satisfied back then. And what I mean by that is that the child, and we know this from Montessori, that the child ages 6 to 12, they want to know why and how, and they want to know it about everything, how the world works, what is out there in the universe, animals, plants, humans, the relationships. And I didn't have anybody really that would guide me, through my explorations and respond to my questions. So whenever I encounter my childhood self at that age, she needs conversations, and she needs me to explain to her why. So why was I living in those conditions, and and how it came about that I developed these beliefs and so on. So when I do explain to her, and when I tell her that this is just a season in your life, she's like, okay, thank you, clear. Now I know I can move on from this now, because actually someone gave her an answer. And yeah. So yeah, and another story maybe that I would like to share, just a side note regarding this age, that also from the Montessori we know that this is an age of herd instinct, that this child ages 6 to 12, they want to be with their friends, and that becomes even more important than the parents. They want to step out of the safe home environment and explore the world together with their friends. And talking about my intellectual hunger, I was so curious, and I had this magazine coming once a month. It was about nature and animals and seasons changing, what's happening outside in nature. And every single month there was a gift attached to this magazine, and it was a winter month, and there was a magnifying glass attached to this edition. And inside there was an article, information about different animals and their footprints, and that you can actually find them and observe them in the snow. So I remember the excitement, seeing this magnifying glass, holding it and being excited. Okay, let's go and explore. And I asked some of my friends to come with me, and they were like, what? Like, why would you go out there and freeze, for some animal footprints? And so I tried to do it alone, but of course you don't want to be alone at that age. You want to be with your friends. And what happened with time, I simply gave up. I stopped being curious. I stopped being excited about the universe. But no complaints here, because I am my own parent now, and I am my own friend now, and I can give it to myself now. I can go out there and explore things with like-minded people. But I just wanted to share this story, as I found it fitting to this video. Now, let me check what else I have in my essay. So yeah, and so in my case, that 6-year-old one needed this intellectual input and support, and different, each one of us will need something else. Maybe you had an intellectual input and guidance from your parents, but maybe you never had hugs, or I don't know, just lying on the couch, together with your parents, whatever is it that you need. And so in this session, I had a moment of parenting myself, and I came out enlightened, absolutely enlightened and empowered. I can make a change. I'm not hopeless or helpless. I have a voice that I can practice. And still, I would say that I would still suggest everybody, to, if somebody asks me, of course, if you want a dog, go and check your local shelters. They have all ranges and ages of breeds and dogs, and like all ranges of breeds and all ages of dogs available for most of the time. But this suggestion doesn't come from judgment anymore. Before, it came from a place of, how don't you understand? Like, what is wrong with you? Why are you not adopting a dog but buying a dog? But now it comes from a place of, just check it out. Just check it out. If you're asking me, just check it out. You will find a friend. You will find there a friend forever. And it comes from a place of ownership and taking responsibility for on my own. It's also in my hands. It's not just about you. What do I do actually for these animals? And I share things on social media. Actually, we adopted a dog from a shelter too. He's lying next to me here in the bed, and I can show you how cute the doggy is from the shelter. And I do that. I do spam my private Instagram with stories, with loads of pictures with him. And I can open my own shelter one day. Fingers crossed. So overall, therapy sessions, they feel like magic, sometimes, but they are not. It's actually a work. And every single time judgment comes, judgmental thoughts come, I feel it in my body. And it does, and it will, until I rewire my brain, for good. I have to catch myself and I have to remind myself, look, do you remember what you experienced in that session? You are the change. It's not other people's responsibility. It's as much, as much as theirs, it is your responsibility. So what are you actually doing for a change, for changing something, rather than expecting others to take the whole responsibility, So, and it is work, but it is worth it, because it's so much nicer now that, that judgment that I was carrying, it was heavy. It was really heavy. And at the end of the day, I only hurt myself. Those people that I was judging, they didn't even know. I never vocalized it. It was all happening inside of me, and damaging my own health. And I hope this story, this real life experience has inspired you and has empowered you, that our younger versions of self come out in different life situations, and you can observe, do you notice? And how old is that version of you that comes out in a conflict situation, or in on the street where you see something, or maybe when there's a noise and you suddenly become anxious. How old are you actually in those moments? Where does that moment bring you back to? Which age and what happened there? And maybe it would be interesting for you to notice. And if you want to share some of these observations and you don't want to make it public in the comment section, do write me a message. I always share my email address in the description of the videos. And so we are our own parents now. We take responsibility for ourselves now, and we do not expect others to come and save us, because we do have a power. We do have that power inside of ourselves, and we can make a change for ourselves and for others and for the world. And as a conclusion, I would like to read you a quote from Harry Potter book 7. If you are a Harry Potter fan, you will understand. If you're not a Harry Potter fan, please stop this video now and go read the books. Just joking. Anyways, to the quote. And I'm gonna read it from my notes, okay? So, Harry asked Dumbledore, "Is this all real? Or is it just happening inside my head?" And Dumbledore replied, "Of course it is happening inside of your head, Harry. But why on earth should that mean that it is not real?" Have a beautiful day, dear people, and see you in the next video. Bye.